Welcome into the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo here with Mike Renner, talking some NFL draft. How you doing, Mike?
I am doing fantastic. Ready to get into class superlatives.
That's what we're doing today. Class superlatives by position. But you're over here trying to fix your Twitter poll here.
Yeah, well, Steve recently, you guys can go vote on my poll. It's actually only up for a half hour more, so you're not going to be able to vote on my poll. But Steve took
this is very personal.
Cup of coffee out of a normal drip coffee brewer when it was only halfway through brewing, so he gets the strongest part of the coffee and leaves everyone else the weak part.
No, because look, they would not create a feature. Because there are some drip pots, if you pull it out, it keeps brewing. It stops brewing when you pull it out. So it's like they designed it for mid pot pours.
I don't think that's a feature. That's more like it's more a fail safe to make sure that I
think it's a feature.
I'm just saying
my coffee
it's an asshole move.
It's
an asshole
really
move.
caffeinated.
Yeah, and mine tastes like water. So that's why you're selfish. It's just selfish. It's selfish.
That is good, strong coffee.
It's not selfish. All right. But let's get some
Sam
superlatives.
Convinced me that it was fine, that it was good to go.
Yeah, I know. You guys both. I can't believe this. I mean, I can believe this.
Even Nate Gerstel, who's like Mr. Office Etiquette over here. I mean, if we have a question, because none of us really worked in an office before. Mm-hmm. You know, like we all came from random places, right? Nate knows office etiquette, and Nate doesn't care. Mid-pot pour, he's like, okay, whatever.
He's just too easy.
He's worth 100 votes in your poll, so let's see here. Are we losing?
Yeah, you guys.
My people are losing. It was also a very leading poll, the way you worded it.
I don't think.
Very leading.
Let's get to the superlatives, though.
Let's get to the superlatives.
You'll find out you'll be able to see the results when just go to my Twitter account.
Let's start on the offensive side of the ball with quarterback. We'll just go through some fun superlatives, things that we've seen on film, starting with the best arm strength in the class, a guy that we have as an undrafted free agent but throws absolute missiles, Tyree Jackson from Buffalo.
Yeah.
6'7", 250.
Howitzer of an arm.
Yeah.
The fact that he's not getting any sort of first-round hype with how strong his arm is should tell you how bad of a quarterback
shows how bad his accuracy is.
Show how bad at the rest of the stuff he really is. I actually had a dream a few weeks ago that he was an edge defender. And he switched to edge defender and was actually good. Yeah. So that tells you how much.
With his size and athleticism,
I've been doing this too much over the past few weeks. But yeah, Tyree Jackson. I mean, he really probably should switch.
He might be tight end 3 in this class, though. Yeah. Hawkinson, Fance, Tyree Jackson. And then you run a couple trick plays where maybe he can throw 180 yards down the field.
You don't get athletes that big ever.
Yeah.
That's why they play tight end usually. He should be a tight end.
So Tyree's got a cannon. For most accurate, we'll go in Kyler Murray when we talk about the entire package of accuracy. Short, intermediate, deep. He has it all.
This one was not an opinion either. This one we tracked it.
Yes. I mean, we actually have the numbers to back it up.
Some of these are opinions.
We did not have most dynamic or most athletic, but that would also be Kyler. Best outside of structure. I think, you've got what Kyler Murray can do. Mm-hmm. What about boomer bust? We're going to have one boomer bust prospect pretty much for every position.
You went with Drew Lock here. And I agree.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. I think he has the widest range of outcomes of any of the quarterbacks in this class. I
like the way you said that, because that's essentially how we view this whole thing, right? Yeah. Boom or bust is this binary. You're either good or you're bad, but it's about range of outcomes. There could be good outcomes in there for Locke. There could be some disastrous outcomes. I've compared him to Jay Cutler. I think that's Jay Cutler.
Jay Cutler's, even through his career, had a wide
range of
outcomes.
So that's the thing about player evaluation, too, just to hammer home. These guys, it's not like Madden where guys just get better every single year. Mm-hmm. Like you have a skill set that might go up and down year to year, and that's where Drew Lock kind of is. All right, let's go to running back. Who's the most elusive back?
It's David Montgomery. And it's probably, if we did this over the course of our, 5 years, 6 years of grading college football, he'd probably win most elusive. Just the dude breaks tackles. He's very difficult to bring down. 99 on the ground this past year. Led the NCAA each of the last 2 seasons. He's tough. Yeah.
That's just on the ground. That's not even including as a receiver. Mm-hmm. But yeah, 175, I think, over the last 2 years, is it? Forced missed tackles. 99 last year, 86 in 2017.
That's 185.
It is 185. I saw it at 175 somewhere. I may have had a different filter on.
Okay.
Maybe I didn't have. He had 13 against Drake and 12 against Kansas State and 14 against West Virginia. I just like looking at the play-by-play here.
He would just have stretches where, every single run for like 5 runs, he just breaks one.
Really tough to tackle. Best power back in the draft.
I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs. I think that's the reason why so many people are so high on him. He runs aggressively. In short yardage, that's, to me, best power back is, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, goal line. Who am I taking? That's power back. So it's not necessarily the biggest, strongest. It's, combination of size, some athleticism. Josh Jacobs.
He also can make people miss, but he's going to do it more from running them over like he did that poor Oklahoma sap. Best home run hitter, Mike? I'll let you take this one.
Could have been Darrell Henderson. He has some good data.
I typed this name in. I was waiting for you to correct
me.
But
it's Bryce Love. It's Bryce Love. When he's healthy, it is Bryce Love.
You have a whole article?
On ProFootballFocus.com right now about why he is so special and why I think people are still sleeping on him. I mean, we saw what Adrian Peterson did after an ACL injury. We saw what he's still doing after an ACL injury. I don't think it's a death knell to him whatsoever. If you get a clean bill around draft time, he should be one of your top 5 backs.
We were watching a little bit of Bryce Love yesterday, who coming into the season was a top 5 back for sure in this class. But some of the angles that he's defeating at the college level and some of the gaps that he's running through, just fantastic.
Yeah.
So it is one of those, if you put him behind a good offensive line and give him a run into the second level, he's hitting home runs.
One of my things earlier, you see Ravens, Eagles mocked running backs round 1 sometimes. Yeah. You got Bryce Love in the 4th or 5th in that offense. I'd rather have him in one of those behind very good offense lines where he's going to have holes than probably any other back in this draft, just because he would take so much attention from defense because he's liable to hit that home run on any given play with how gaping some of the holes those O-lines can block for.
No, I like it. It makes a ton of sense, especially if you're talking run blocking plus, Lamar Jackson just helping the box count and giving, a little extra room to run. What about a boomer bust running back prospect, Mike?
Boomer bust running back prospect, there is none.
Or it's all of them.
No, there is none, because
it's either
we won't draft a running back high enough for them to be a bust.
We won't. As I always say.
But yeah.
Players don't bust, teams bust.
Yes.
Teams overdraft these players who then are called busts. So they're all busts.
But in our minds,
they're not busts.
None of them are busts because we're not taking any.
We're not going to draft one high enough to bust. All right, we're going to wait until the 4th round and then find Bryce Love because that's how we're doing it.
So no boomer bust.
Let's go to wide receiver. A few different ways that we could break this down, but the best deep threat, I'm going to say DK Metcalf. I've compared him to Martavis Bryant before because of the size, the ball skills, and the speed. Ability to get off press and just get that second gear down the field. I'm going DK.
I don't disagree. I think he is the best deep threat.
Good.
Andy Isabella, though, has the most deep yards.
So you're going Andy Isabella?
I'm just saying he has the most deep yards over the last.
Well, look, if we're going to put Andy Isabella in the 1st round and say he's an outside receiver, then he has to have some sort of superlative like this that makes sense.
He's up there.
What about Marquise Brown?
Marquise Brown's up there too, but actually Marquise Brown, underrated, wasn't used as much down the field as a pure downfield receiver as you might think.
Right.
A lot of his home runs were intermediate, underneath plays that he himself.
Then he took to the house.
Yep.
Best contested catch wide receiver. This one, pretty easy.
Easy money. Led the nation this season. Led the draft class this past season, led the draft class in 2017. It is J.J. Arcega-Whiteside out of Stanford, both of the years, and I feel very comfortable about that translating to the NFL.
What about the best hands in the draft class?
This one we want pure data hands, and 2 guys somewhat crazily tied in terms of drop rate.
Just drop rate?
Over their careers. Cody Thompson.
From Toledo.
The other Toledo wide receiver. 5 drops on 145 catchable, and Jacoby Myers, the other NC State wide receiver, 6 drops on 174, which is, my calculator tells me the exact same percentage.
That's what your calculator's telling you, huh?
Yep.
Why don't you do it by hand? You do all this math in your head. Do it in your head.
No. Okay. That one's a little too much for me.
Cody Thompson has a fascinating career because he's always been productive when he's been on the field. He's battled injuries over the last couple of years. Had a couple of years averaging about 20 yards per catch and everything. Kind of a sneaky deep threat. Sneaky speed.
Yeah.
He's good hands for Cody Thompson. Best route runner. We're staying in Toledo, Mike?
Right. I'm staying in Toledo. Deontay Johnson. If you haven't watched him play, he can get in and out of his breaks so efficiently. He tested out like cheeks at the combine. None of it made sense. His 3-cone wasn't good. His short shuttle wasn't good. Then you flip on the tape and he just moves so naturally as a receiver in and out of his cuts. His runs a ridiculously good deep comeback. I mean, he can stop on a dime, that guy. So I don't know why his testing didn't match up whatsoever with how he plays on tape, but he's electric.
You, Sam, and I have all had our own bouts of watching him and being like, wow. Mm-hmm. Sam's in the other room right now watching him. And before I came in here to podcast, he pulls out a play from last year against Miami, little in and out. It was like I
thought you were going to say pulls out lotion, but continue. I don't know why.
That's where your head's?
That's where my head's at. Continue.
Man, we got to get you back on The Bachelor or something like that, man. Come on. He shows me a little in and out route, which is like the Edelman game winner from the Super Bowl a couple years ago, a little in and out against Miami from 2017, where he created about 10 yards of separation on a 3-yard route. It was fantastic.
No. And he had a post in 17 also where he kind of just gives a head fake to the outside and a post against off cover 3, but the corner was probably about 15 yards away. But by the time he caught that post,
he accelerates out of those breaks really well. I know we put out our draft board already, but the draft is in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Do we need to go back and move him up?
I argued for it at the time, and you'll recall this. You didn't want to put him above N'Keal Harry. I was all in favor of that, but we'll see.
I don't know. The more I watch, you might talk to me.
I think we could still have
He had outstanding 2017 grading. Last year was a little inconsistent with his drops, but who cares? Boomer bust prospect at wide receiver. I'm going DK Metcalf again because, the same reasons we've seen. I guess the question is going to be, he has to go to an offense that will take advantage of his downfield ability and his ball skills. Mm-hmm. If he's not with the right quarterback, it could get ugly. It won't change his skill set, but it might change his outcomes and his production, which makes him a little bit of boomer bust versus some of these other guys, I think.
I'm going Marquise Brown. I mean, to be boomer bust, you have to be drafted high. So it's going to be one of the top-end guys. Right. He's rumored to still be going first round. I worry about the size.
This is too strong.
Stop looking at your
coffee.
It's
a little too saturated, my coffee. Just saying.
Oh, gosh. You're trying to make me mad.
I may have stolen all of the caffeine.
Marquise Brown, you'd never see him against press. The defenses that faced Oklahoma were just terrified to get up and press those wide receivers. You never see him against press one. And then his size, 166 pounds. Now, some of that had the surgery before, and the surgery itself, the Liz Frank injury, is obviously a concern too, and the fact that at his size, you just worry about injuries, any little nick really robbing him of that speed and that being an issue. But just being able to handle press and then just being able to hold up at that size, having not really done either up to this point, those are worrisome concerns.
And we talked about him on the other show, this spectrum of Deshaun Jackson being the high-end, undersized was guy. Who was at the bottom end?
Tavon Austin would be.
Tavon Austin's on the other end. I mean, that's a wide range of outcomes that Marquise Brown could have at the next level. Let's move on to tight end, the best run blocker in the draft. I'm going to say it's TJ Hawkinson, the guy that's number 1 on our draft board, the Iowa tight end who is just I think he's the closest thing to your quintessential 3-down, old-school tight end. He actually had to block defensive ends in the running game, where a lot of these tight ends in college football today, they're playing the wing and they're, cracking back on defensive ends, but, cutting them and everything. I mean, he actually got in the trenches against defensive ends and moved them. And he also gets to the second level and moves linebackers. There are some highlight level blocks that Hawkinson has on film.
I'm not going to disagree about Hawkinson being a fantastic blocker, but I'm going to go elsewhere. I'm going to go Trayvon Wesco, West Virginia, 267 pounds. He's a horse. Almost 35-inch arms. I draft this guy. He ran a 4.8 940. That's not good. But I draft this guy. I tell him, I'll give you a guaranteed contract. You'll get your 4 years. He's probably gonna be 5th, 6th round, or late round. You get guaranteed 4 years if you put on 30 pounds and be my swing tackle. I think that's how good he is as a blocker, and it really has no real receiving upside to speak of. There's not a lot of receiving skills there. I say upside, obviously, quotation marks. The receiving ability not there. So at that point, he's going to be a number 2 tight end. He's going to be your blocking tight end anyways.
Bulk him up.
If he gets up to tackle size and he can actually maintain that as a tackle, all of a sudden you got, half of. Now, I don't want to say half of what it takes to play tackle in the NFL, but a good portion of it is there's just not a lot of guys who are 6'4", 6'5", with 33+ inch arms, with enough length to play tackle position. There's just not a lot of athletes. You're sampling from a small sample size of athletes. He's obviously athletic enough, can do that. And if you can get that guy to, and the technique is there as a run blocker, as we've seen, That's what I would do if I'm a GM.
The entire
Jason Peterson.
Oh yeah, Peters changed from tight end to tackle. The entire book of Moneyball was essentially finding those holes in the market, so to speak, where you can just find secret value, right? We haven't studied it in depth, but I think something like that. You've got a guy who's a clear tight end 2 or 3, clear run blocking tight end,
which is zero value too.
Which has zero value. Where if you can make him into a swing tackle or potential starter tackle is immense value. Finding more of those guys, and we have to make a list of where all these different things are. But it starts with just our general discussion. If you have a tackle that might be able to play tackle at the next level, give him a shot and then move him to guard and all that stuff. I think these are little. I like it. It just little ways to build a team that I think are important. Best contested catch tight end. I'm going Josh Oliver from San Jose State. He's got the highest percentage of contested catches over the last couple of years. Mock Draftable, the website that we use a little bit, get the spider charts, compare all of your measurables and all that stuff. His top comp on there is Rob Gronkowski.
Oh.
Now, it's not because... Now, Gronk did not test... Well, I'm just saying. Gronk didn't test all that well coming out. He was injured and all that stuff, but I think it's because of his hands. They're both like 95th percentile hands.
Big hands. Big
hands, contested catches. Oliver's got pretty good body control, all that stuff. So he's not Gronk, but it was interesting that that's his top comparison.
I will say, I do think hands matter. I'm going to tell a little story. My brother has always had very good hands and always bragged about having very good hands. He has 10.5-inch hands, my brother. What? Same size, same height as me, 6 foot. We're the same. He has very good hands, but he has 10.5-inch hands. I have 9-inch hands. It makes it very like.
You could never play QB.
He can catch pound basketball, all that sort of stuff at a high level. It helps to have big hands catching.
That's why Josh Oliver is our best.
Josh Oliver, 16. That was 6 in all of college football. I mean, he had a ton. So.
16 contested.
Yes.
Yep. Best overall hands in the class, we're going TJ Hawkinson, only 2 drops on 75 catchable in his career.
That one's, I mean, he's clearly 2 on 75 that's a very good rate. He plucks it out of the air. I expect that to continue in the NFL.
Hawkinson really shouldn't be in the top 10 conversation because he's just solid and good all around. He's not a freak tight end, but he's just good and solid all around. That's why he's best run blocker, best hands. The boomer bust tight end, though, is his teammate Noah Fant.
Yeah.
Because the drops work the other way for him.
Opposite end of the spectrum, 13 on 91 over his career. Right. That's a high rate. I mean, that's worrisome. It's been every single year, too. It's not just like 13 in 1 year or like 4 in 1 game. It's been consistent theme. A little straight liney in terms of his routes for my liking. There's just some issues there where he might, if you draft a guy in the first round, you want a complete guy to do anything you ask him to in an offense, and there could be issues there.
He's also forced 3 missed tackles in his entire career. He's not great after the catch. There was a lot of straight lines.
For as athletic as I always worry about guys who are that athletic. Miles Boykin, I've said before, at wide receiver, when you're that freakishly athletic, but then you can't break tackles, there's just something to that. When you have guys the opposite end of the spectrum who can break tackles and aren't athletic, it's kind of like this elusiveness, a feel for the game is just not natural to him.
All right, let's wrap up offense with just O-line superlatives. Our best pass sets, we're going to say Jonah Williams from Alabama. That's what I'm saying. Do you have anybody better?
No, Jonah Williams has been clean, going from the right side then to the left. He just is very exceptional. He talked great interview with him, Austin Gale did on our YouTube channel. Go check it out. He keeps an Excel spreadsheet on every pass rusher he faces, studies them.
What a dork.
Tracks their moves, how often they employ them. You hear stuff like that, and you just think that the guy's going to make. You feel confident about that guy making it at the next level.
I'm not saying he's Joe Thomas at all, but when you watch Joe Thomas play, there's just something so smooth about every pass set, so controlled, and I think Jonah has elements of that in his game. We mentioned on one of the other shows that he's got the highest grade on his profile on our YouTube channel. He's got the highest grade against stunts in the entire class, and you see him, just the vision is fantastic, and he's passing guys off. He's just really good at a lot of the nuances of the game. Best run blocker, I'm going Juwan Taylor from Florida. Absolutely destroys people in the run game.
He does. I can't argue with that. I think he is a fantastic run blocker. Yeah, there's no one I'd really put ahead of him as a run blocker. I'd say some guys are close to
Dalton
this.
Reisner's close.
Reisner could definitely be one of them. I was also going to throw out Nate Davis out of Charlotte. I love him.
Oh, yeah,
in the
he's
run
fun.
Game.
The guard.
He's a horse. So those guys But Jawan Taylor, for what he brings to the table as a true junior, it's pretty special.
So he's a power run blocker, but the best zone blocker, which again, this is just a broad term that gets thrown around there. But when you watch Garrett Bradbury, the center out of NC State, and some of the reach blocks that he makes, just that slightly undersized, super athletic center, that's Bradbury.
Yeah, zone blocker being more like guys that can move. Like in a zone scheme, you got to be able to climb to the second level. You got to be able to reach block nose tackles, reach block, depending on where you're on the line of scrimmage. Reach guys, Garrett Bradbury, freakishly athletic for what he can do for centers. Very reminiscent of Jason Kelsey, what he can just add on another level athletically than most centers you see in the NFL.
And I've said before, Philadelphia uses Kelsey to pull quite a bit in their zone scheme. He looks like a little linebacker running out there trying to block linebackers, and he's really good at it. For Boomer Bust, I was debating Jawan Taylor there just because there's enough question marks about him in pass protection, but I'm going Greg Little more for the boom factor out of Ole Miss. He's not the cleanest as far as the pass sets go and all that stuff, but when he's put into pass blocking situations, so to speak, he's fared pretty well. I think there's stupid traits to work with. He's had some success, but there's still more to improve, to work with, especially in pass protection.
No, I don't hate that. I think you can go that way. I was going to go with Cody Ford, the Oklahoma.
Yeah.
1 year. I mean, really 1 year and not a ton of passes, just not challenged a lot. I mean, probably challenged just in terms of who we faced less than any of the other offensive linemen in this class by far. So I think a lot of teams are already saying kick him into guard. I'm fine with that. If you do want to kick him into guard, the athleticism concerns are definitely there on tape at tackle. So I think if you're getting a guard and you're drafting him 15th overall, you better be getting a special guard.
That's risky.
And so that to me is risky.
Before we get to the defensive side of the ball, it's time for this week's Eckrich Ingredients for Success, featuring Kentucky edge defender Josh Allen. Allen's success starts as a pass rusher, where he posted the nation's top pass rush grade in 2018. His size and athleticism allows him to win in a variety of ways off the edge, and he's also improved as a run defender, and he's excellent when dropping into coverage. Allen's coverage ability is just an added weapon at the next level, as he's dropped back 300 times over the last 2 years and broke up an impressive 4 passes on just 20 targets last season. Allen has the ingredients to be an impact defensive player in the NFL. Visit Eckrich.com today for meal ideas featuring Eckrich smoked sausage and their entire lineup of breakfast meats, franks, and easy-to-follow recipes. All right, let's move on to the defensive side of the ball and some superlatives, starting on the defensive line with the edge defenders. Mike, who has the best first step, the best burst off the line?
Best first step. This one was a debate just watching film between me when I was going through before I had any testing numbers between Brian Burns and Ja'Kai Polite. I would give the nod to Burns because Ja'Kai Polite false steps a ton, and also now because Ja'Kai Polite tested out like buns at whatever weight he checked in at. But he probably played like
But it doesn't change what we saw in film.
At 230, but that's the thing is what we saw in film was probably him in like 235.
Right.
What we saw at the combine and at his pro day was him weighing 258 pounds. He obviously put on bad weight in a short amount of time. Brian Burns put on weight and still had that elite burst. So I think Brian Burns, to me, best first step in this class.
Somebody on Twitter had a very fair question for us as we put out the draft board. They said, why did Ja'Kai Polite fall on your draft board? Because, hey, we're PFF. We talk about the grades matter the most and all that stuff. Explain to the people why we had Ja'Kai Polite actually fall.
So he had a very good grade, and a lot of that came in a few games. And so when that's always risky when you have guys who dominate, and you dominate. Colorado State was his highest graded game last season.
Yep.
Offense tackles that won't sniff the NFL. That's always a little risky, and you see a fantastic athlete on tape. Well, that's what we saw listed at 240. And realistically, that's probably what he was playing at, maybe even played under 240 and looked like a fantastic athlete. He shows up at the combine 258 and then does not look like a fantastic athlete.
All the combine numbers are terrible.
Terrible numbers. And so that, to me, we already have question marks about what weight is he playing at, what can he do at the NFL, just because you can't really know at the college level, because it does matter what you're playing at when you should get to the NFL. It's just not going to work against bigger tackles in the NFL. So when you need to get to the 240 range at least and maintain the athleticism. If you can't get bigger and maintain his athleticism, then you're kind of not going to be playing 3 downs in the NFL.
And then he had a little bit of time to get better at his pro day, and things got worse.
It got worse.
At his pro day.
That's like a work ethic red flag there. The fact that you're not getting better.
Right. So there's an issue there, and it's apparently a Florida issue because that's what happened with Tease Tabor a couple years ago. Remember, Tease a couple years ago gets worse at his pro day, and we had never heard of anything like that. The pro day, it's like, it's a 39-yard dash, and you figure out where the wind is, and you don't have 3 hours of sleep like you do at the combine. You're well rested. Like there's a lot of things in your favor at your pro day. When things are worse, that's another big red flag because again, it's this all-encompassing work ethic, job interview, red flag. I want to go back to the weight thing really quickly because we've had a lot of guys that have graded well in college as edge defenders in the 220, 230-pound range who just don't get opportunities at the next level. And it's not like we're pounding the table for them to get opportunities because there is this, inability to create power at the next level if you're only 225, 230. So that's another part of the concern. If he was playing at a legit 235, we haven't seen many guys under 240, even with great PFF grades, translate to the next level.
And that's what I was saying earlier with the Colorado State thing. It's who you're beating.
Right.
He wasn't beating, the elite tackles that he was facing. He was beating up on guys.
And he had a couple nice rushes in the SEC. It wasn't like it was all one-sided.
No, but it was good, but it wasn't first-round good when he faced real competition. It was, there is still like this projectional aspect of they're not finished products. There's a ways to go. And if we don't feel confident that guy's going to get there, well, we're going to drop down our board.
All right. It's an important conversation. It was a very fair question from one of our followers because we're focused on production. We think it's the most important thing, but there are other variables that go into this whole thing. Edge defender, back to that. Best bull rush, Josh Allen from Kentucky.
Josh Allen. He's just got so much pop in his hands. You watched him against Martez Ivey, the Florida offensive tackle. It was comical. Like, he would just hit him in the chest, and Ivy just no recourse. Like he just had nothing, no sort of. I think every single rep he went against him, it seemed like he just threw him back into the quarterback's lap in that game.
The funny thing about so Ivy was a former 5-star recruit, and because of that, he was getting a lot of draft hype coming into the year. Jawan Taylor was the 3-star recruit, became a first-round prospect. Ivy never really developed, and he was getting hype even with a couple poor seasons at guard at Florida. Best hands among edge defenders, I think this is pretty clear. Nick Bosa.
No doubt, Nick Bosa. That's the Bosa's calling card.
That's what they do. They just win with their hands. And then the boomer bust edge defender, I think we have to go Rashawn Gary. Do we go Montez Sweat? I mean, we've talked about those guys quite a bit.
More Rashawn Gary in my mind. It's just far less developed, and the athleticism definitely there. You could see it again and again, but then why did it not ever work? Why did it never really translate?
His boomer bust might be dependent on how he's used too. I mean, is a team going to treat him in that Michael Bennett type of role where he's a base defensive end and then rushes against guards? And if he does that, maybe you find some value there. I think if he's a pure edge defender and has to beat tackles 25 to 35 times a game, I think he might have some issues there.
And it seems like, so he's representing himself as his own agent. It seems like he's sort of, when he came to Michigan, he wanted to play edge. He didn't want to be a defensive tackle, even though he was 290 pounds in high school. So it seems like once he gets in there, he's going to be like, I'm an edge. I'm not a DI. So
that part's scary, a little scary. So Rashawn Gary's our boomer bust edge defender. Let's move to the interior of the defensive line. Best first step. I'm going to say best first step, second step, third step. It's all Ed Oliver.
Ed Oliver
Every
getting
movement
off the line of scrimmage is impressive. Yes.
Yeah, so he knows how to get off the line of scrimmage. Now the question is, can he use his hands? Does he have enough pass rush moves to truly live up to the top 10 hype? Best bull rush in the draft class here?
Jeffrey Simmons. He uses his arms extremely well, very powerful for as young as he is, 35, almost 35-inch arms, not even 22 years old yet. I mean, he's going to be a handful when he gets back on the football field.
He looked like he put on a ton of weight at Mississippi State. That seems to be the trend for a lot of Mississippi State prospects through the years.
Get them fat, yeah.
They get them really, Benardrick McKinney a couple years ago, even Chris Jones, I think, got a little bit. I feel like Simmons could even slim down a little bit, and he's got that old school 3-4 body type, 3-4 D-end body type, like 6'4", 295.
I think it's like
his ideal
he's like the
size.
Prototype like size, 6'4", long arms, little like 310 pounds. That to me is you can play anywhere on the defensive line at that point.
He uses his leverage extremely well there. Best hands among interior D linemen, the guy that wins the most.
Quinnen. I mean, he just you can't get in his pad. He's getting in yours.
And then for boomer bust prospect, we circled back to Ed Oliver, just because I think the boom is pretty clear, right? If the athleticism, the movement skills, everything about it is special, but there's still some technique issues to tidy up, or just to improve, or to just teach from the ground up, really, with Oliver.
Yeah, I just think him against double teams could be an issue right away. He did not look great against double teams. Him rushing the passer might not be an immediate transition. So there's a ways to go for him to be, to live up to a top 10 billing.
All right, let's move on to linebacker. The best tackler in the linebacker class, Tavon Coney from Notre Dame, has only 17 missed tackles on 319 attempts.
28 players had more in 2018 alone.
Wow.
So
17 missed tackles on 319 attempts. That's just an incredible rate of securing
5%
tackles.
Over the course of his career. I love his balance. That's why we're so high on him. Love balance in football. Players think that helps you play. He's not a freak athlete by any means, but he's, in my opinion, athletic enough to be a 3-down linebacker. So.
Good balance ratio for Tavon Coney. We need that too. Best balance ratio guy? Who stands up the most?
I haven't thought about it enough.
All right, we'll circle back. Next pod. We'll do
balance
that.
ratio.
How about best blitzer?
Devin Bush. This was close. I think both the Devins are very good blitzers.
They are, really.
Bush attacks with a little more ferocity. He's out for blood just a little more than Devin White. Devin White's pretty freaky, but Devin Bush.
Bush also has that. I think he's got that versatility where if you are playing a mobile quarterback and you want him to play spy and all that type of stuff, like that would be a fan. You're not drafting him just to do that, but the fact that he has that in the bag because of his 4.4 speed and all that stuff
is nice.
And that add-on blitzer. I mean, Bush can be a weapon in that game. Best in coverage. I didn't feel great about saying Devin White. I don't think we saw as many of those spectacular plays that we saw from, say, like a Deion Jones at LSU, but White just has that potential range at linebacker.
Yeah, I love his ability to make plays in front of him, and I thought he made plays behind him and dropped and ran with guys better than Devin Bush did in this class.
Yeah.
I thought there's multiple aspects that you can be good at the linebacker position, but I just thought him dropping deep and turning and running was better than any of the linebackers I saw in this class.
And then the boomer bust linebacker prospect, I guess Mac Wilson from Alabama is still getting that first and second round hype.
I mean, he's like the only one besides the two Devins that seems to be getting any hype, and I don't really feel like the White or Bush I feel like they're pretty safe with how athletic they are and what we've seen from them already. I don't want to say anyone's safe, but I feel like there's a role for them, whereas Mac Wilson, not nearly on their level athletically, not nearly as productive as either of them. So at that point, if you're drafting him in the first round, you're not getting a linebacker, in my opinion, close to either of the other two. We have 11 linebackers ranked ahead of Mac Wilson. A couple years ago, we did most important and most overrated traits by position, right? On one of our podcasts. Did we do most overrated traits? I can't remember if we did. Either way, one of the most overrated things that I think people see is just how hard a guy hits. Mac Wilson has some of those freak hits. I remember him as a true freshman just running down on special teams, just destroying people. And it kind of catches your eye, but it doesn't matter that much in the grand scheme of when you're grading every single play and all that stuff. So I feel like that's still kind of working in Mac Wilson's favor, maybe? Yeah, I mean, I think people are paying a lot of attention to the name on the front of his jersey. And Alabama. Yeah. I feel the same way about the Wisconsin guards, too. It's like, they didn't go to Wisconsin. You wouldn't be calling these guys, second rounders. Yeah. You kind of get enamored with a position at a school producing so much success that this guy has to be good too. Not necessarily. All right, let's go to cornerback. We've talked about the next two quite a bit, best in zone and then best in press man. Best zone corner, Byron Murphy from Washington. Best in press man coverage, Greedy Williams. They're 1 and 2 on our cornerback draft board. And again, because every team's different, some in our world, even if we were drafting for different teams, we'd say, hey, Greedy Williams we would take first for certain teams. Byron Murphy would take first for other teams. We've said this a zillion times at this point. You guys, if you're listening, let us know how many times we've said this. Let us know. Dozens. All right, give me your best slot corner. This is your slot corner, guy. My boy, Jimmy Moreland, James Madison, 18 picks in college. Him breaking on routes underneath, special, physical. You can play man from the slot. About as good as anyone in this class. Maybe David Long might be my best man corner from the slot if I'm picking. But Moreland, I love his short area quickness. Love him. He's a football player, Steve. You describe him as a football player. Just a football player. The dude loves to get after it. I feel like you're getting worse and you're using upside and football player. And no, it's a mentality. He has the mentality. He reminds me of Mike Hughes from a year ago where it's just he's undersized. Just not the most athletic, but Mike Hughes, another one of those corners. He acts as if he's 6'3", 210-pound corner.
Mike Hughes is another one of those guys. You never have a sub 4.5
right
40 in the first round.
Yeah, those guys never go high.
They never go. So boom or bust. I'm going to mention a guy that I like. So Justin Lane, who has been my sleeper for like 12 straight weeks here. I'm also going to call him boom or bust because I think it's going to depend on his scheme and his development as a press man corner. I love his zone skills. I love his length, ball skills, former wide receiver. So there should be some room to grow. Some ugly reps as a press man corner, though. This reminds me a little bit of Rasul Douglas a couple years ago with West Virginia. They played all off coverage, and he was just fantastic, making plays on the ball, playing in zone. And then he goes to the Senior Bowl. It's like he was learning how to play press, and it was really ugly at times. And it was one of those, like, if somebody can get him to improve this part of his game, Rasul Douglas could be really good. And he's starting to get better with the Eagles. I feel like Lane has a little bit of that to him, depending on how he's used.
All right, I'm going to go a different route. I'm going to go with Isaiah Johnson, the Houston cornerback. If you were to create a cornerback's measurables, you would build Isaiah Johnson.
What are they?
Just ideally. He is 6'2", 33-inch arms, 208 pounds. He ran a 4.4 40. He had a 36.5-inch vertical, an 11-foot broad jump, 6'8" 1.3 cone, and a 4.06 short shuttle. I mean, he just moves differently than anyone else. It moves as elite as you possibly can at the cornerback position, but he was a wide receiver 2 years ago, only played corner for a couple seasons, can't tackle to save his life. I mean, he's just not a good tackler. Probably some of the worst reps I've ever seen attempting tackles. So don't put him in like a cover 2 scheme. That's not what you want. But the dude makes freakish plays on tape that no one else can make because of that athleticism. The potential is off the charts, but there is a ways to go. He has a ways to go.
I didn't see how those numbers stacked up to Kevin King from a couple years ago. Was King a little bit slower? Because he had the change of direction at almost 6'3", right? That was just freaky.
His change of direction, he was...
Did King run that fast, though?
He ran that fast. I think King ran a 4.4 also.
King was in that type of range, right?
Yeah.
And he was this boomer bust type of cornerback prospect because at Washington, he would have this freakish, incredible interception, but then just wasn't, he wasn't nearly as good as Sidney Jones just on a play-for-play basis.
4.43 for King. 3.89, so even better in the shuttle. 6.56 in the cone.
Yeah, the cone was ridiculous.
39.5-inch vertical for him, and was 6'3", 32-inch, so an inch shorter arms.
The arm length was a little bit shorter. But yeah, Kevin King has similar measurables. What did he go, second round?
Yeah.
Packers. What else do we have for boomer bust? That was your guy. Let's move on to safety.
Last one here, because we're not doing special teams.
No, we're certainly. Well, we'll call Gordon in.
Just
for
put him on
kicker takes.
Speakerphone here.
Yeah, we're not going to do that though. I made up my own best burst. Darnell Savage.
You did make up your own. You just
I just said best burst because he's got the best burst. He just flies through the catch point so fast. I put him in the first round. He's just incredible. I could be wrong. He might be the boomer bust guy too, because I might be completely overrating. Here's the thing about Darnell Savage. I could be completely overrating how good of a playmaker he could be at the next level, but I absolutely love what he did at the college level, the athleticism tied to it. I'm pretty much banking on him cutting down on the 10 to 15 missed tackles that we've seen per year. But if he doesn't, could be some ugly reps out there too for Savage.
No, best burst. I mean, I wasn't prepared for this one because you did add it. Just throw it on me. But sure, Darnell Savage.
This is one of the first ones I added to the document. Mike, you got to pay attention.
Okay.
So really, I just had my last sip of coffee. This was just like pure tar. I mean, it was just pure caffeine to my veins. I might not do the mid cup, the mid pour.
I think the poll's going to be over by the time we'll get a full. We'll do a breakdown at the end of this podcast.
You need a 24-hour poll. By the way,
I'll give you
You got to get you can't just get people that are at work.
They're at their lunch hour. They're at people at their lunch hour.
I need people that check in at 6 p.m. after work, and they need to be able to vote too.
All right, let's blow through safeties, and then we'll get to the poll.
All right, best VHS.
Okay.
This is another made-up term. This is a Sam Monson made-up term. VHS. This is called a vision head start, which is essentially it's just making up terms like our friend Lance Zierlein. When you see what's happening and you just immediately move.
Okay.
Right? So the process of seeing a play and reacting almost immediately. Some people call it instincts.
Yes.
Some people call it, football intelligence.
IQ.
Or what's the buzz?
Oh, mental processing.
Oh, mental process. Some people say mental processing. We're calling it VHS. Deontay Thompson from Alabama.
Sure. Deontay Thompson works for that. I can see it. He has a good feel for the game, does not have a good feel for running a 40-yard dash.
Smart. Genius move. Saved him probably 2 rounds Best tackler among safeties?
Taylor Rapp.
Yeah.
Easy one.
He missed one like week 1 against Portland State or whatever, and then missed only one the rest of the season.
What was he thinking that game? Portland
just
State.
diving.
Yeah.
Just diving into dude.
I mean, he's like the anti Trey Waynes.
Trey Waynes.
He's like so good changing directions and so incredible, like stopping in just any way, which way, shape, or form he wants, any direction he wants to go. He can get there very quickly if it's like within 5 yards of him. If it's like 20 yards away from him, you might take him.
He's a little slower in the 4.7. That is anti-Trey Waynes. Yeah, Waynes had the better. Waynes had a quicker 40 time than his short shuttle, which is
Waynes
rare.
Could get somewhere 40 yards away super quick. He could not get somewhere 5 yards away, like at 3 o'clock or like 4 o'clock.
It would take him the same amount of time.
It took him a long time.
I added best ball skills. I don't know if you saw everything that I had here. Best ball skills. I went Nasir Adderley from Delaware.
I dig Nasir Adderley. He has fantastic ball skills. Some of the picks he made were, this highlight reel is special to watch.
Center field type of.
It is #fun to watch. I mean, there's a reason why he's also, in my opinion, the boomer bust for this class is because it's so difficult to tell from that Delaware tape. You can get away with so much at that level that you probably can't in the pros. That he was. I do love the ball skills though, but you just don't see. He's still just so much projection.
He reminds me of Malik Hooker too, because the boomer bust aspect is, wow, Hooker made like 3 or 4 interceptions that you're just
exactly.
like, wow.
So they're small samples,
right? And Adderley's the same thing. Mm-hmm. The actual boomer bust safety we're going to go with here though is Jonathan Abram.
You're going to go with.
I'm going with Mississippi State. Jonathan Abram.
Yeah.
We did the whole breakdown how he compares to Keanu O'Neal, and if you put him in the Keanu O'Neal role and he's a pure strong safety in this cover 3 scheme, he could probably succeed. He's got a lot of skills there, but he's still never really graded well for us other than in those strong safety snaps. And ultimately, how valuable is that? Can you find 20 guys that can run that strong safety role? Mm-hmm. Because it is pretty simplistic.
Yeah.
So Jonathan Abram from Mississippi State, I just don't want to take him in the first round.
And I don't think he's so close to where I'm saying, let's just throw him as my linebacker. Let's have him do the safety to linebacker transition. I don't think he's that close enough in how he plays the run and
even if he was, do you really want to take that in the first round?
Yeah.
Probably not.
No.
So, are you going with Adderley as your official boomer bust safety?
I went with Adderley as my official boomer bust safety.
Okay.
See if is that, can I?
No, that's okay. We've mentioned every safety as boomer bust because honestly, I think that's the nature of the position. Use these guys in the right way.
I don't know. I think
you get some boom.
I think there's some. I think you know what Taylor Rapp is.
Taylor Rapp's a safe safety.
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is. I think you know what Amani Hooker is to some degree. They're not going to be drafted. They're not going to be drafted as high. We're saying the safeties that are possible first rounders here for us could be busty.
All right, so there you go. It's superlatives on the defensive side of the ball. It's a fun little podcast, Mike. Fun to watch.
The poll actually just ended, which is incredible timing. 51% said yes, you are in fact an asshole for taking that cup of coffee.
That was a leading question, man.
I don't think it's a leading question. I don't see how it is. The exact words were, are you an asshole if you take a cup out of the office coffee pot that's midway through brewing? That's exactly what happened. You can add your context of I was starving for coffee or whatever. I don't think that makes you any less of an asshole.
I did it today because we were supposed to start the podcast immediately.
If we would have started the podcast immediately, then I would have been more lenient to you.
Well, that's what I thought. And then I came in and they said, no, 10 more minutes.
Okay.
Then I looked bad. Not going to lie. I might change my way because of the 51%.
Let's hope.
I might but we'll do a little experiment on the human condition. I will change the poll.
Okay.
Reword it.
Yeah.
And see what kind of results we get.
Good.
Because you definitely led the witnesses. So.
The witnesses concurred.
Are we doing my guys?
Oh, should we do a my guy?
Do you have somebody? The draft board's up, by the way. ProFootballFocus.com. Can I say it's still subject to change? Can we still change it even though it's in the draft guide and all that stuff?
I think we should be able to change it.
Because there's some internal debate right now between Daniel Jones and Ryan Finley.
Mm-hmm.
Full disclosure here. We have some people that want to move Ryan Finley above Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is currently our 5th quarterback right now. 3rd round grade on both of these guys, but we've got some debate about flipping Ryan Finley and Daniel Jones. Mm-hmm. So if Daniel Jones goes in the top 15, some questions there. There's some debate about Deontay Johnson, who we put in the 3rd round, wide receiver from Toledo. Is this your guy for this week?
Sure. Deontay Johnson, my guy, definitely. I mean, I love this dude.
Do we need to move him to the 2nd?
I would. I would say
Sam wants to too.
To me, I think he's
like
better than N'Keal Harry. I would rather have him than N'Keal Harry.
Oh man, we're switching the draft board on the fly right here.
Deontay Johnson, his redshirt sophomore season, the year that N'Keal Harry just was as fast and was more productive, had a better grade. Took a step back this year because he had, just a human trash bag at quarterback. I mean, a very bad quarterback at Toledo. Hope he's not listening. But he left about 400, 500 yards on Deontay Johnson.
N'Keal didn't have exactly the most accurate guy in Manny Wilkins.
I mean, he's supposed to be big catch radius guy. I'm kidding. Now that got biased. But I'm just saying, I just think
the board's not final yet.
Okay,
it's not final yet. We can switch it a little bit.
Okay,
I'm allowing this. I need a guy.
It's okay. Deontay Johnson's my guy.
So Deontay Johnson, just dynamic route runner.
And I think he's just also punt returner. He led the nation in punt returns over the last 2 years. Punt return average. So
I'm going to go Max Crosby from Eastern Michigan.
Okay.
Have we talked about him yet? We did a preseason draft guide 2 years ago, and I remember writing him up in the preseason guide. He never declared in the 2018 draft. Here he is in the 2019 draft. Now 3 years of really good grading. Got good size from Eastern Michigan, good movement skills and all that stuff. And he's in our third round among edge defenders. We've got 15 edges going in the first 3 rounds, and he's in our top 15. So, the fact that Max Crosby is even that high coming out of Eastern Michigan, I think says a lot about him. And he could be a little mid-round steal. He could be a guy that's there in the 4th or 5th. Poor
man's Brian Burns.
That's what you called him?
Name. Poor man's Brian Burns.
Poor man's Brian Burns. Is that going to do it for us?
That's going to do it.
All right. That'll wrap it up. That's the PFF podcast for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Mike and I are going to be on Sirius XM NFL Radio tomorrow Friday, 10 to 12. So if you guys are already listened to this before, be sure to tune into Sirius 10 to 12.
It might be a lot of the same stuff.
We might repeat a whole bunch of it, but it'll still be fun. We'll put a little different twist on it for the serious people. Draft guides out, PFF Edge or Elite. Go check it out at ProFootballFocus.com. The YouTube channel, all of our draft profiles are coming out. And then we'll be back here with the podcast on Monday. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys next week.